evening, everyone, and welcome to the Maitland City Council meeting on October 28th, 2024. If you would please remember to silence your phones or any other devices. And if you would also fill out a speaker card like this gentleman has done, it will help us kind of move things along and get your name spelled correctly, more importantly. Hey, we have cards up there, we have cards out there, if you need it, it's very helpful for us. As we do, let's begin this evening with a moment of silence. If you please join me for a brief moment of silence. Okay, thank you. And now, if you're able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We jump right into the old business. Mr. City Manager, do we have any old business?
No, sir.
Okay. Occasionally, we have a CRA meeting, so what we're going to do right now is to adjourn the council meeting and convene the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting. And thank you, Ms. Garrett, for showing up again with us this evening. We will open with a CRA public period. Does anybody in the public have any interest in this? This is about the CRA, for the Community Redevelopment Agency. So what we're going to do, I'll just brief primer, we jump into the CRA. It's a kind of a meeting within a meeting, and it really just has to do with the CRA, the Community Redevelopment Agency, and the taxing district within the downtown. And once we finish our business with that, we'll go back into the city council meeting and carry on as according to the agenda that you've seen. So this is kind of a scene within a scene, if you will. So if anybody has anything they'd like to discuss on the CRA meeting, that was your comment. Okay, seeing none. Let's close the public period on CRA. We have the consent agenda for the CRA. Does anybody on the CRA like to remove any items from this consent agenda? Okay. And then we will ask for public comments on consent agenda item number 2. Does anybody have any, again, this is an item for the CRA. None. Let's close the public period. And a motion would be in order on the CRA consent agenda.
Make motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Member Guthrie?
Aye.
Member Hall Harrison? Aye. Member Wartzel?
Aye.
Member Wild?
Aye.
Member Garrett?
Aye.
Chair Lowndes?
Aye. Okay, we have approved the consent agenda. Thank you, Ms. Garrett, for showing up. I think this is a very important function of the city. We don't need to diminish it by brevity, but we do appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Okay, now let's adjourn the CRA and convene the city council meeting again. So we're back in action as the city council. And we have a consent agenda for the city council. Would anybody on council like to remove any items from the consent agenda? Okay. I would, if I may, remove the item number 11, number 10, Parks Trust Fund designation approval, Minnehaha Park. If we can remove that and discuss that later rather than having it further consent agenda.
You need a second on
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Well, actually, do we need, actually, we need to do it by vote. That's fine. We appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. All right, we're going to discuss that separately. Would anybody from the public have any discussion on any of the items on consent agenda aside from the trust fund issue, which is the pickleball issue? So this is any comment aside from that issue? Okay, let's close the public comment, and a motion will be in order on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, is that, I mean, just for clarity, does that mean consent agenda minus? number 10?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Minus number 10 for discussion there.
All right, Laura, is that your understanding of it? Ms. Worthing?
Yes, second that.
Yes, okay. Laura, please call the roll.
Councilmember Hall Harrison.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember Wurzel.
Aye.
Councilmember Wild.
Aye.
Mayor Lowndes.
Aye. Okay. So we have removed that item from the consent agenda, and we'll, I guess we place it behind the decision item. Because we need to talk about that ordinance. So that will be now item number 7.2, is that right? Yes. Yeah. All right, so we have a public period. And this is the public period for anybody to talk about anything they'd like that's not otherwise on the agenda. And pickleball is on the agenda, so we'll get a public comment period for that later. This is just for any other business in the city other than pickleball.
But, may I ask a question?
No, ma'am.
Can I come up there for people to help?
You can come speak if you like, if you want to, but this is the comment time, not for pickleball. That's coming later.
Hi, I'm Stacy Larson. I'm the director of the Maitland Public Library. I'm very excited to announce that we have just launched the Newsbank platform on our website. Newsbank will give you free with your library card access to more than 14,000 newspapers from Florida, the United States, and around the world. Everything from the Orlando Sentinel, free with your library card, to the South China Morning Post. So it is available right there on our website, www.Maitland Public Library. Again, the Orlando Sentinel is free on our website. We also, as part of our Newsbank subscription, offer Heritage Hub. This is, I think, the first time we have ever had a genealogy product. It has tens of thousands of obituaries and death notices from newspapers, from funeral homes, even from cremation societies, a place that is not normally available on the website. So if you need obituaries or death notices as part of your family research, as part of your genealogy, Heritage Hub is the place to go. Also available for free on our website, maitlandpubliclibrary.org, with your library card.
Is that connected with, like, the Mormon genealogy out of Utah that they do?
It is separate from, that one is Heritage Quest.
Right.
And that one is, I think, available just through their own website,
Okay.
and then the Family Research Centers. The Orange County Family Research Service Center is at the West Orange branch of the Orange County Library System. But it's available for anybody in Orange County who wants to go do research and get help for that. But yeah, they're very similar names. The LDS is Heritage Quest, and ours is Heritage Hub.
Okay, thank you,
Right.
Stacy.
Thank you.
I got a speaker card for Mr. Curtis Kanahiro. Is that this is a general public comment? Very good.
Hi, I'm Curtis Quinhero. I live at 106 Kyle Drive. It's in the Minnehaha Shores neighborhood. So I just wanted to thank the city for staying with the cleanup after Hurricane Milton. We had a lot of debris in the neighborhood. The folks finally got to it yesterday, and they made several trips. There's still a few piles there, but I do appreciate the city's efforts. And that's it. Thank you.
Well, okay. Thank you, Mr. Kanahiro. Is there anybody else on the general public comment period? Any general public comments? Okay, let's close the public comment period, and we're going on to our decision item, our first decision item, which is the introduction of ordinance number 1436. Lori, would you please read the title?
Ordinance number 1436, an ordinance of the city of Maitland, Florida, amending chapter 9, local business taxes and regulations of the code of ordinances, article 2, solicitors, panhandlers, and peddlers, amending registration process, amending regulations related to panhandling, providing legislative findings, providing penalties for violations, providing for severability, conflicts, codification, and an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Dan, would you like to introduce the item?
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as Lori read into the record, this is an amendment to Chapter 9, Article 2 of the Code of Ordinances that regulates our solicitors, peddlers, and panhandlers. And so the proposed amendment does the following with panhandling. It defines aggressive panhandling. It prohibits aggressive panhandling, and it gives penalties such as notice of violations, civil citations, and other legal remedies. And it also removes a lot of outdated Code of Ordinances language. With respect to the solicitors and peddlers, it updates the code to match the current practices that we do now, in which case the process of registering or getting a solicitor's license is you come through the Community Development Department and we process the applications and we issue the licenses for that. It also amends the application requirements from 10 to 14 days prior to starting your solicitation. You have to apply 14 days. It updates old code references. The code currently calls them occupational licenses. We're changing that to business tax receipts. And it also amends the application fee from $10 to $50 to more reflect capturing the cost of staff time to process the applications. It amends the hours of solicitation from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's currently 9 to 9. So we wanted to move that back because we thought 8, 9 o'clock at night, especially in the winter, is probably not a good time to have solicitors walk around your property. And it's still remaining Monday through Saturday. There's still no soliciting on Sunday. It amends the permit period from 12 months to a 6-month period, so you have to apply twice a year if you're going to do it year-round. And it adds language that permits could be revoked if the business terminates your employment. We've had a couple cases where we issued a solicitor's license, the applicant or the licensee was actually terminated by the company. So that wasn't previously in the language of the ordinance. It also amends the appeal process. And instead of going to City Council on appeal, it'll now go to the City Manager should the Community Development Department revoke one or deny an application. So staff is recommending Council introduce Ordinance 1436, amending Chapter 9, the local business taxes and regulations of the Code of Ordinances, and set the public hearing and action date for November 11th, 2024. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Does anybody on council have a question?
It is, I got this one. So, in the code, does it define what aggressive is?
It does.
Okay.
And I can read it out to you if you'd like.
No, I'm good, as long as we have a definition of what it is.
We do, yeah. It's basically following people, knocking on their windows, physically touching people, things like that.
Any other questions, again? Okay. Does anybody from the public have any comment on this proposed ordinance? You'll have two shots at this. The way we do it is an ordinance gets introduced one time, and then 2 weeks later we vote on it again. So we'll have one vote tonight and another vote if it passes 2 weeks from now. So you have another shot at this if you'd like. Go home, read the ordinance, come back and talk to us in 2 weeks. We'd love to hear from you. If there's no further discussion, the motion will be in order.
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance number 1436, amending Chapter 9, local business taxes and regulations of the Code of Ordinances, Article 2, solicitors, panhandlers, and peddlers, and set public hearing and action date for November 11th, 2024.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
And a second. Laura, please call the roll.
Councilmember Hall Harrison.
Aye.
Councilmember Wurzel.
Aye.
Councilmember Wild.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Mayor Levin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you again on November 11th. Now, let's take up the issue that's pulled from the consent agenda, which is Park Trust Fund designation approval, Minnehaha Park project. Mark, would you like to speak to that?
Certainly, sir. After about a year and a half discussion at the July 22nd, 2024 council meeting, consensus was reached to proceed with converting one of the existing tennis courts at Minnehaha Park in order to create 4 permanent pickleball courts. It was further determined that the city could utilize Park Trust Fund to expand the functionality of the existing infrastructure at Minnehaha, essentially turning 1 court into 4. By policy, Parks Trust Fund money, which is designated trust fund money that's paid in by developers through impact fees, has to be designated by the city council. Currently, that money was earmarked for Hill Rec, or Hill Passive Park, for some pavilions, signage, seating areas. Based upon the decision that was made at the July 22nd meeting and the determination that we could use Parks Trust Fund, City Council needs to take affirmative action to redesignate that for the pickleball courts. That's what this item is on the agenda for tonight. If it's approved, the schedule for the improvements could be as early as mid-November, hopefully being completed by the beginning of next calendar year.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions for Mark on this item? None? Well, let's open a public hearing on this item then. So this is the moment when anybody from the public who has, well, all right, I can do that. I'll call the names that I have up here. We'll use the speaker card format. This is for public comment on the pickleball issue. So, Alexander, come on down.
Yeah, actually, I'll take, John, I'm sorry. Do you mind if Doreen and I, Chuck Fletcher and Doreen all go first?
If they defer?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll defer, yeah. Because you want it so much.
Okay.
Yeah, you go first. Thank you. Alex, I know you appreciate that. Thank you, Chuck.
Doreen Olive, you need our full address, right?
Yeah, that'd be helpful, yes. Thanks.
620 Lake Catherine Drive, Maitland, Florida.
Chuck Fletcher, same address.
So I thought I had my readers, there are readers in here, so I have to have the ones so I can read this.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for approving the tennis court to be converted to permanent courts for pickleball. Number one, thank you very much. The temporary nets have been, they're barely hanging on, and we're blessed to have had them, but thank you for making them permanent. So go ahead.
So Chuck and I right now are basically representing several people that are out playing tonight at the courts. And I think that you probably all have received several emails and phone calls and everything about the issues of removing the open play Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evening. So I just want to go into a little bit of history here real quick. Since December 2019, the courts of Minnehaha have served our community well, with 3 nights having open play. Players show up and play whomever is there. Recent developments have us feeling a little bit blindsided. As you all know, we've initiated discussions with the city since January 16, 2024 to request more open play time due to the growing number of pickleball players. We also discussed the implementation of a paddle system and the establishment of permanent courts. If the city introduces fees, it definitely risks driving players to neighboring municipalities that offer free pickleball. There's no other municipality in Central Florida that does not offer free open play. Maitland will be the first one that does that. Why alter a successful system that has been working for the majority of people that are playing? Each evening at the courts, it's pretty unpredictable as far as who's going to show up. Some nights are busier than others. Depending on the time you arrive, between 5:30 and 9, you might face no wait, or you may have a delay of up to approximately 15 minutes, with the later hours typically being the least busy. Of the available time that pickleball courts are available, right now 11% of the time is dedicated to open play, leaving the remaining 89% open for other residents and other people to schedule their own playtime. I know as for parking, the city's made claims about the police having been called once. However, Chuck and I, we show up consistently every single Monday through Wednesday without ever encountering any parking problems. Yes, it has been busy, but we've never not had a parking spot. But that is really the purpose of the parks, is for the residents and the community to enjoy it. So I think that would be a good thing that it's staying busy. It's also worth noting that there are 17 parks for families and only one is dedicated to pickleball. Additionally, from what I've been told so far, the interactions that I've had with all of you, none of you participate in any of the pickleball. So we have certainly offered you to call the City of Winter Park, Parks and Recreation, Jason, who has had a lot of experience. He's the director over there. He has a lot of experience as far as developing their pickleball systems, their courts, and addressing the needs of the community. And they have, all of their courts are open play all the time that they are open.
I'm sorry to say that time is up for that.
Okay, we get 6 minutes, don't we?
Chuck, I have to read.
Okay, you didn't make us do that last time, but I'll go ahead and let him read. Go ahead.
Anyway, Jason offered, if the city's interested, you can contact him or he'll contact you, and he's willing to explain what he does and how successful it works for them. The city officials suggest that we wait to see how the new pickleball courts are going to go under the reserve system, and we don't feel like that's fair. We had open play. We totally just don't understand why, because they're making them permanent, why they would change something that's working so successful. It's bringing, our youngest player is 9 years old, and our oldest, we're not exactly sure because nobody wants to tell their true age, but we're guessing somewhere in the 85 range. This program, we realize, is essential to all ages. People that would normally be sitting on a couch watching television, eating a TV dinner, they're coming out to play pickleball. It's it's kind of like when you were a kid and you went to a basketball court. That was the only thing that you could just kind of go to and pick up a game. And that's what pickleball does. You can be a complete stranger and show up at pickleball, and everybody embraces you and everybody laughs. We encourage you to come see it. People laugh, they joke around, and it's just a wonderful 3.5 hours that we have, and we're just trying to embrace it with everything we have. What else? I didn't realize we were going to get this. In other words, and we're just, why would y'all want to change that? We don't understand it. That's why these people are here, and we're just hoping that you can see it, to leave it like it is. You know, if it's not broke, why try to fix it?
Right.
Mr. Buttle,
Certainly, why not? Sorry, this is my first one, so I don't really know what the rules are.
we're fairly informal, don't worry about it.
Fantastic. My name's Alexander Fadul. I live at 190 Independence Lane, literally just across the street. So if needed, I could walk to the Minnehaha pickleball courts. Just like what Chuck, just to touch upon what Chuck just mentioned, I am one of those kids that would probably be sat at home in front of the TV eating a microwave dinner if it wasn't for, as you can probably see, if it wasn't for the fact of open play pickleball. And my partner was the one who introduced me to it at first. I didn't know, but the skill range was so easy and easy to kind of get a grip on and get the rules down in maybe 1 or 2 games at max, that I think that's why it's such a social kind of, any age can play. You're not just turning up to exercise, but you're also turning up to socialize with the people that you meet along the way. So to have it keep being open play, I think would benefit all the people. And actually, I think there would be a lot more people had this meeting not been on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, but instead of on a Thursday, because most of us are probably down at the Minnehaha pickleball as we speak today. So I just maybe just think about keeping it as open play. We would all really appreciate that, especially people in this room. I think I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but I speak for me. So thank you for listening, and yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Michelle Amir.
Good evening, my name is Michelle Tamir, 606 Villa Circle in Parkway Townhouses.
I'll give this to you.
And my father had a business in Maitland in 1970s in Village Grove. And then I lived here 27 years, so I'm old-time Maitland. And I might be an anachronism, but I want y'all to know that Maitland had a reputation as a nice small town. I think it looks very small-minded for us to charge our own citizens to pay taxes, in addition to paying taxes, to charge us to play little pickleball. That just doesn't sit right. There's no reason for it. We have a lot of development here. We all have a good base. Don't take it from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, Nelson Blankenship. Blankenship.
Nelson Blankenship, 541 Lake Catherine. I've moved here since '71. My daughter fell on told you because he don't broke her arm over that park, so I've been around there a long time. We used to have 4 tennis courts over there, but through the redesigns, we're down to 2, and they want to do 1 pickleball. What I don't understand is, I read an email from Florida apparently, that says we're doing this for community interest, which is proper. What I don't understand is why we're charging for it. We haven't been charging for it. Why are we charging now? I'm not even sure why it shouldn't be free anyway, but that's another issue. It would seem to me too easy to kind of leave it the way it is. Just to make it fair for everybody to go out there and play. If you look at the other hours of the week when the tennis courts being used and the pickleball courts, we'll go back to resort back to tennis. They're not used near as much as they are these hours on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So apparently the community wants this as opposed to what it has been and what y'all trying to save it to. So my suggestion is probably not charge for it. And probably have more pickleball, because that's what people are going
Thank you, Mr. Blankenship. We have Doug Allen.
Doug Allen, 2040 Diane Way. I've been a resident here for over 20 years. Pickleball has changed my life. I recently wrote a paper on it. And the way that it's changed my life is more from a social aspect. I have met so many wonderful people that I tell, like I would not have met them just going through my normal day and normal life. But specifically open play pickleball at Minnehaha has, we have gained so many more relationships that way, and to the point where I would have them over for Thanksgiving. Like this is family. And so I appreciate the social aspects that it gives. Professionally, I'm a physical therapist, and I really appreciate the physical aspects that we get from pickleball. Pickleball allows so many age groups to come and participate. So my son Noah, who's 11, he will also speak today, but he's an avid pickleball player. It allows him to go up there to play with 85-year-olds, 60-year-olds, and it's allowed him to interact and have an intergenerational conversations, and has allowed him just to grow up and be a wonderful young man. And then just professionally speaking, the Journal for the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons just recently released a paper in September stating that pickleball for the third year in a row is the largest and fastest growing sport in the United States. There's almost 4 million players in the United States, and the largest incoming age group to participate in the sport is 24 years and younger right now. So I highly recommend that specifically open play is part of Minnehaha because of the benefits that it brings to the residents and the non-residents for the physical, for the emotional, for the social aspects that it helps us as individuals.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. And Noah, would you like to speak as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, come on up. You just like MTV.
I'm Noah Allen. I'm a 6th grader at Maitland Middle. And for about 8 months, I've been going up to Minnehaha. It's Monday through Wednesday to play pickleball with my friends. Some of us, I have a 7th grade friend that goes up most of the time, and there's a ton of other people coming up. And there's a new person almost every day. There, I highly suggest that you guys should keep open play because it's one of the fastest growing sports, and it's going to keep having more people coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah.
Thank you, Noah. Okay, Rose Tamir. I'm sorry. Sorry, Rose Tamir.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just want to show support and request that we do keep some open play at Lake Minnehaha. I've been a Maitland resident for about 30 years and very proud to be one. Family here, I've made so many friends here, and really a new family here in pickleball. I started playing pickleball about 8 or 9 months ago, and I played initially at Katy Way in Winter Park and Dover Shores in different areas. But the community that Maitland has at the pickleball courts is completely different. It is so warm and accepting and open, and I have made friends with 11-year-olds, I have made friends with 85-year-olds, I have convinced my boyfriend to get off the couch and stop eating TV dinners and come play with me. And I live right across the street. I'm such a fan of Maitland. It is a wonderful place to live. And I really just want to advocate for the few hours that are designated on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to remain free. I think of, I love lots of activities. I love yoga, I love going to F45. But what I love so much about pickleball is that I don't have to make a reservation. I don't have to plan in advance. After a long, stressful day, I can decide, do I have the energy to do anything? If so, pickleball is right there for me. I don't have to think about coordinating a reservation, wasting money if I can't attend. It just feels really good. It's a major stress relief, just for myself. I know for what you see here is not a true reflection of the amount of people that are in support of this. They are so obsessed with pickleball that they're at the courts right now playing. And I can appreciate that. I'm bummed to miss it myself, but this is obviously very important. So I do beg of you all to just think about, I'm not asking for more time, even though I love that. I'm just asking to keep what we have. It is really important for the community, and so many of us take advantage of it. As you can see, if you'd love to come visit, I would love to meet you there. We'll teach you the rules, or just to observe. It really is special. More so than any other courts. It just feels like a family there, and I really would encourage you all to please consider. I'm so sorry, I'm having a hard time with that mic. Just the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the rest of the time, sure, go ahead. Reservations, I understand, but it really is special to have some free time without making a commitment to going, and then if you can go, great, and if not, then that flexibility is really appreciated, and it's a wonderful opportunity for all of us. Thank you.
Raquel Hager. Yes. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Raquel Hare. We live at 6070 Algonquin Trail. I've been here over 25 years in Maitland, tennis player. Learned pickleball about 5 years ago. And it was the prior mayor, actually, that started pickleball here in Maitland. Started at the Hill, then I moved over to Maitland Middle. And this city, and I want to thank you for it, you offered setting up courts, setting up those nets, and sending your employees there, and that takes commitment. So I think you're committed to what you're doing for this community, and I really appreciate that. So I'm not here to complain about open play or no open play. I think open play is very important to a lot of us. But I also think it's important to have a reservation system where, actually, Noah, you joined us on Saturday. I had friends, we were celebrating birthdays, and all our, the same people that we met years ago, and you're creating that here now, which I really share your passion. But I think we have to be very respectful and thankful to the city for what they've done and what they're trying to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Raquel. Carol Remick.
Carol Remick, 771 Sequoia Trail. I too have been here for over 20 years in the city of Maitland. Tennis player, going up to Maitland Community Park, walk through there every day with our dogs. Been playing pickleball 2 years, started at Katie Way. The concept of, and I agree with Raquel, I think we need to find a compromise where we can have both. Reservation system, but open play is what pickleball was created on. It's meant to be a social outlet for people. It's meant for you to meet your people in your community, make friends, all ages. You can be an overweight, 2-knee replaced 60-year-old woman and go out there and play with an 11-year-old kid and have a great time. That's what pickleball is. It's not me calling and trying to find 4 friends, 3 friends, make a reservation and get out there to play. And then it rains and, oh, I just lost my reservation. It's really meant, I had a bad day at work, I want to go, I'm just going to grab my paddle and go down there and play. And I'm going to meet some people. And that's what it's all about. You can have reservations. I'm a proponent for, why just 3 days of open play? Why aren't we doing it every night of the week? I drive by Croatia every day. And on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, those courts are packed. You've got people lining those fences. You guys who drive down Horatio, you live here, you see it. The other nights of the week, it's empty unless someone dragged out their own net and put it up. Let's build the community. Let's make Maitland awesome, which it is. The people of Maitland are awesome. But also have create a reservation system. That's it.
Okay, and Mr. Larry, would you like to?
Oh, I'll give my 2 cents worth.
Please do.
Didn't want to go that far.
Where you been? Oh, drive me my age. Larry Schnapper, 410 East Packwood Avenue. I've been here over 25 years. I used to be very politically active. Because when there's an issue that revolves the quality of life in Maitland, that's what we're ultimately here for, is to improve the quality of life for our residents. And we're a conglomerate of all kinds of different people. There are the people that live a very structured life and they can make a reservation and they can get 4 people together to play tennis or whatever. But there's a very large portion, if not the majority now, that are single, that are whatever. They need more flexibility in their life. And to put these parks in and then make them more difficult to use defeats the purpose of the parks. You can do all the things you want to do, but if you don't make life enjoyable, what's it for? So you want to make it as usable as possible. You're spending millions of dollars on all kinds of different things, police, fire, whatever. To charge for pickleball. Now look, I don't play pickleball, I don't play tennis, I don't play any of this stuff. But I want quality of life for my friends and other neighbors and such. I want Maitland to be known as an inviting community for not only our residents, but for others. And you should make this as accessible and as welcoming as you possibly can. Because the more people you bring to Maitland, and they play pickleball, then they're going to go shopping. Then they're going to eat dinner. They're going to go to the bar. They're going to stay here and do other things. They're not just going to come to pickleball and leave. They may do other things. So there's got to be a balance. And I'm not sure what that balance is. there are hours, like I said, that people with structured lives are able to maybe reserve courts. And then there's the evenings where people have very flexible hours that they should not have to worry about, do I have a reservation, don't I have a reservation? Or I'm a single person, I don't know anybody. I want to go get some exercise, and I want to make some friends, and I want to meet some new people. So I can just go, not have to worry about any fees or reservations or anything else, and have a good time. And that's the purpose of government, is to make it welcoming to everybody and meet everybody's needs. And there's always going to be a balance, and there's going to be a give and take. But I think charging a fee for somebody to play pickleball is kind of, probably costs you more to minister the fee than the fee is worth. That's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, Mr. Snapper. Does anybody else? Any public comment period? Anybody, please come on up.
Thank you. Peter, 961 Kinlock Road. First of all, I think this is awesome. I'm so impressed that you came out here and spoke. I've met some of these folks here playing pickleball with them. I feel like there's a voice that's not being heard. That's the people who kind of get pushed out of the mix because the courts are so crowded. On the way over here, I was talking to my friend Dave. He's like, I can't go there anymore. It's too crowded. He's like, I feel like I'm competing with non-residents. He's like, I wish we could just have some courts that the residents could play at. I think there's a balance of both. I would just like to see us be able to have reservations as well, so we can have some courts just like the tennis teams do, where you can reserve a court and play with some friends. So that's what I would like to see as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lerner. Does anybody else have any public comment? Okay, seeing none, let's close the public comment period and bring it back to council. And just for context, I appreciate everybody coming, we really do. We all appreciate your heartfelt comments. I mean, that's just what we like to hear and what we're here for. To give some context to this particular item, it was on the consent agenda, and really, as you heard the city manager say, really what we're here tonight to do is to either pay for or enter a contract to pay for the courts or not. So that really is this item. And I've, over the last week or so, I guess, I've been in contact with Dorial and Chuck and others by email. And so the issue has kind of morphed into the open play issue too. So it's just something we want to hear about as well. And it's obviously very important and passionately held view for a lot of people. But I'd like to kind of segregate it into 2 items tonight. First is the business that was advertised to be on the agenda, which is, do we want to make these pickleball courts permanent? And so if we could do that and then take up the policy issue. And I sent Noreen an email kind of laying out my recollection of the evolution of the open play versus reservation system was. And we made a decision back in July to do just a full reservation system once the courts are permanent. And Noreen and Chuck, among others, have now said this is an item that needs to be revisited, and that's why you all are here tonight, and that's why we're hearing from you. So it's just glad to hear from people on this item. So that's a policy item, and that if we want to address that, we can do it tonight, or we can do it at a future council meeting if that's the pleasure of the council. But the advertised business tonight was to obligate the money to build new pickleball courts. And so let's take care of that first if we can. And we can have a vote on that, because I think we need to either pay for pickleball courts or not. And then we can take up the item just as a discussion item among us on the policy issue of open play, whether or not we want to entertain that or not. So does that sound like something the council feels is a good way to segregate?
I think it makes sense from like a voting perspective for sure. I think that I did just want to say that when any conversation that I had, in terms of wanting to bring forth the idea of making these permanent and spending this money was very connected in my mind to the payment. And that's because that's how we do a lot of other things. It's not, we're just deciding to charge pickleball players. The Parks Trust Fund is exactly that. It's why do we pay people to have parties in pavilions? Why do we charge tennis players to reserve boards? That is a separate policy question whether we should be doing any of that. But that is what we do, and that's what we've long done. I don't know for how long, but as long as I've known. And so, to me, knowing that these players were a part of our parks and that there were these tennis courts at Minnehaha that were not predominantly, especially once pickleball lines were drawn on them, used very much by tennis players, that was part of why that all made sense in my mind and in several of our minds based on the discussions we've had. And so it's a little bit difficult to, I am in support of making these permanent, I've said that before, and not trying to change anything or make it contingent on anything, but I would feel very differently if we were going to have a policy of not charging, in terms of the policy of whether or not open play could be built into Parks and Rec programming, and there could be registration, and all the things that Parks and Rec, I trust them to do, is a separate issue. And I understand, or I at least understand now, that pickleball does work differently in terms of the rotations and the social aspect than tennis. But if we were to be treating it from a payment standpoint any differently than tennis, I don't know that that makes sense to me and would not necessarily justify this expenditure in my mind, if that makes sense. So that's just the part of it that I did want to put out there, and I think it's important for context. The first time I ever heard complaints about pickleball was over a year ago that we received a petition for more reservation time. I have received complaints from tennis players thinking that pickleball is getting special treatment. I have received complaints from people who live close by Lake Minnehaha Park that think it's too noisy or that the parking is an issue. So we receive a lot, and so it's not just the people in this room. I understand that there's more people in support of this that aren't in this room, but there's also people on all sides, as we've heard a little bit in this room, of that as well. And so we're in a position of trying to make decisions for the entire city based often, not just in this circumstance, on 2 people or 3 people. And so that's difficult, particularly when it's an item that's not as advertised, which I know is certainly part of the mayor's well-taken point. And so I just want that to be, very clear. We've had people come in here and passionately advocate for splash pads, for dog parks, and we said no to all those things. They happen to be more expensive than you would know. So there's a lot of needs, and we do surveys for Parks and Rec's interests, and those are done scientifically in terms of, and pickleball was not number 1, number 2, or number 3 in this community of our residents. And so, and that was why some people on council expressed dissension and even wanting to pass this item ever, because of the subset of the population. We also have to consider how many residents are using these things versus not. And so one thing to keep in mind is these reservation systems really are, I understand it's not being perceived that way, but they can be seen as increasing access to these pickleball courts for the people who don't enjoy open play, which is not everyone, or people who find them too crowded or what have you. And it also allows us to have a way to give preference to residents, which I believe is a typically stated preference of ours, to make sure that your tax dollars are going to actually benefit Maitland residents. So there are advantages in the reservation system to make sure that Maitland residents are getting priority over non-Maitland residents. And so all of those things are things we're considering, but at the end of the day, I don't personally feel at this point that it's my place, either because it's not what's really on the agenda and what we're advertised to all people to know that we're talking about tonight, and also just because we don't really have data to go off of what's really big picture happening. And I really do trust our Parks and Rec people to adjust things as needed and to make sure that everything that we're doing makes sense for everybody to the degree possible. And that really is our goal. We're here literally to try to make this permanent and to spend our money on this. It's certainly not an anti-pickleball agenda. If it was, we wouldn't be here voting on this, I don't think. And so it's certainly not the agenda to pick one side over another or to be anti-pickleball in any way, shape, or form. It's literally just to do our best to be equitable to all of our residents and do the best we can in that. So that being said, that's my piece on that, and that I do think the Parks and Rec Fund, Trust Fund, and the connection to reservation fees and annual memberships, which are $48 for Maitland residents for daily reservations, are integral to that.
So, since she opened it up, I'll just keep running on it. So we're there. One of the things that I really want to share with everybody, you all been here a long time, you said, and so I don't know if you know this, Maitland's only 6 square miles big. Now that's 6 miles, a quarter of it's water. So we have a little over, four miles of land. I wish we had the land like Apopka and Winter Park and Winter Garden and Oviedo to create these big parks and give everything to our residents that we can. But we have what we have, and I think, up here we really try to do the best with what we have. And are you gonna make everybody happy? No, but you wanna try to extend as much as you can and really try to make everybody as happy as you can. That being said, I know these guys work hard at doing that. I grew up playing soccer probably 45 years ago in College Park in Maitland. I played for Maitland back in high school. And I still remember that. We had to pay for the fields. We formed a club. And my idea for you guys is maybe form a club. Have somebody get more organized, have somebody who could reserve it. But if I go to Mayo Park and I do yoga, if I want to play racquetball, if I want to do any of the workouts, I have to pay for them. They're not free for me to do. So, also, I think Little League pays, right? So all these people pay to use the field, even though Maitland residents have it. There's upkeep on it. I know you're just thinking, oh, it's just this, but there's a whole Parks and Rec system. So what I would suggest is, maybe somebody said something about a little bit of structure, just kind of put something together, Maitland Pickleball Club, I don't know, or your own. You had something about more for the residents, you could make the club exclusive and somebody could always set the court time. I'm just trying to throw out ideas to help you. I see people shaking their head, but I just wanted to throw out something that was kind of positive and maybe would have helped you. So, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Vance. Anybody have any?
So what are we, before we get into the total depths of this, what is the intent here? I'm just so I can clarify, because I know we pulled an agenda item that was truly just on the allocation of funds. So as of today, right, we haven't made a decision to actually allocate money to convert that one tennis court to 4 pickleball courts. Then there's an administrative issue of setting hours, which really isn't a public hearing process per se. It could be handled, I think, on a Parks and Rec staff level, right? So I don't know if we're being asked tonight to weigh in on the fee issue, or if we're going to push that to another night, or just leave that to staff, or if we're trying to tie them together. I just want to understand the intent of the...
It was my fault. Yeah, the mayor did very clearly set expectations, and I said no. Partially because we have a crowd, we have a room full of people, and when do we ever have a room full of people? So, but like I said, I just wanted to make sure if there was some sort of feeling up here of like a real next week or in 2 weeks we want to talk about not charging for any of this, that was going to affect how I felt about this. If we were just going to leave things the way they are, we can leave things the way that they actually are, meaning not passing this. So that was kind of why I feel like it puts us in a different, and that's the only reason I brought up any of that, because I agree that it seems like an administrative Parks and Rec's decision, and I would also like to keep it that way. I think that if Parks and Rec was going to decide not to charge for things anymore or change some sort of policy like that they probably would bring that to us. And we could talk about that at that point. Does that make sense? So I apologize.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the one issue that was advertised and the reason we were here is to discuss whether or not to fund the permanent pickleball courts. And the add-on, I think, is that I think why most people don't come is because they understand that pickleball is now on the agenda. They feel like perhaps they didn't get the chance to talk about different issues other than just funding it. There's the overplay issue and the fee issue, I guess. And so this is all, although it was on the agenda as really just funding the courts, it is now, because it's in the public eye, people would like to discuss this other matter. So in my mind, I'm less exercised about the fee deal, because that, I understand people feel strongly about it one way or another. My issue was only the open play versus the reservation system, so I didn't want to make this a financial issue. But what I heard mostly was an open play plea out there. So, and I guess my kind of to your point about whether or not we should bring this to the administration, yes, typically we do. And, we link to Jay and the parks people to run the parks, we link to the fire chief to run the fire department. I mean, and the big policy items we might weigh in, but there's the professionals to do their job. But what happened in July was, as a policy matter, the council voted to do just strictly reservation system. So I don't think that Jay or Mark would feel comfortable at this point having direction from the city council that they wanted a strictly reservation system to stretch it to open play, having heard from us. So if we want to discuss that issue, I mean, it's not on the agenda tonight, but it could be put on the agenda for next meeting, or we can discuss it tonight. But I think we have, the last word from the council was strictly reservation system. So if we want to do something different, then we're going to have to, as a council, decide that rather than just have the administration decide.
Okay, because I think that the distinction of the two issues is sort of, and I understand that maybe it was tied in some people's heads to saying, hey, we don't want to fund it if it's not going to be only reservation, but I do think it's two separate but yet connected issues. And so I think if we're being asked, if what the ask is to say, let's do them both tonight, then I think we would go into more of the depth of the discussion. But if this is truly just, do we want to vote on passing the redesignation into 4 courts? I mean, it's just, I don't know where you want to go with this, and if we want to actually talk about the open play, and how do we want to go about discussing whether or not this is a topic. I mean, everyone's here, they showed up for the open play issue, so I don't know that it makes a ton of sense to do this again. So if we're going to discuss open play, and if the thought is let's discuss open play, unless the community thought that the word didn't get out, but I think it did. I think there was an effort to get the word out on this issue, so I don't know that if we kicked it to another meeting, more people would show up, or there'd be more input. So I just wanted to clarify what we're trying to do here, because I do think it's important to set expectations, because I don't want to vote on this and then everyone leaves and say, hey, we didn't resolve the open play issue.
Right.
So I just want to set expectations and also set the clarity of what we're doing. So.
Okay, and I don't want to back anybody into a decision. I mean, I appreciate that everybody gave up their Monday night, and especially gave up some pickleball time. So appreciate that everybody came out, and yeah, you're right, Mike, we don't want to, send everybody home without feeling like we had honest discussion. But at the same time, I also don't want to back anybody in council into discussing this as an agenda item, because it wasn't on the agenda, and it is now it could or could not be, depending on what we want to do with it. We can either make a policy decision about that tonight or not. But we do have before us the issue of funding pickleball courts. And if some folks on council feel those two things are tied, and there's a reasonable argument that they should be tied together. And I think, Laura, you made some very good points about this, and I appreciate everybody's points about the importance of pickleball. But I think one thing that Laura said, that there are other considerations that we have to take into account on council, that in order to make these decisions, we kind of hear from all quarters and make the decision we think is most reasonable for everybody. And part of it has to do with where the pickleball courts are. I mean, so they're in Minnehaha Park, which is really I'm glad to hear from Mr. Blankenship that it used to have 4, but now we're down to 2 tennis courts. And it's a small park, and it's got limited parking. And, after thinking about, hearing from Jay and from Mark and, and doing some of our own research, I think everybody had their own opinions about it. We looked around at possible places all around town where we might put in pickleball courts. It didn't have to be Minnehaha Park. But Hill Rec wasn't a good candidate because it doesn't have lights. The Maitland Community Park was already kind of parked out, and we didn't want to necessarily give up green space over there to build more pickleball courts. And there, other places are right next to the residential, and in fact, Minnehaha is as well. But it kind of came back to Minnehaha, I think, because of lack of other good candidates. And so we said, well, let's turn the temporary pickleball course into permanent pickleball course, and we got some really positive economic news on that. It was far cheaper to do so than we thought it was. So that's why we ended up with Minnehaha Park. But we do have to take into account its limitations, and it does have limited parking. If we want to make it a pickleball court, a pickleball park, it would eat into the other uses that are out there. We would have to go, talk about, whether we're going to be able to handle the surface water or stormwater drainage. If we're going to build things out, we're going to expand the impervious surface, we're going to expand the parking, and then we start talking about not a $16,700 item, which we're considering tonight. We're talking real money, real time, and not sure we're going to be successful in doing that or not, because other people have other uses for pickleball. For Minnehaha Park. So only to say that we hear you, we understand pickleball is important. We also have other considerations to worry about, which is, kind of in my mind, and other people might have other issues, but the limited parking. I drove over here tonight from my house in Donrick and took a quick look at the pickleball course, and there were a couple of spaces open, but it is very popular and people are there. But you don't want to have it overparked where people can't otherwise use the park if they're not there, or people who would like to come and do other things just don't have an opportunity to park. So that ties back into perhaps the policy goes with the funding of the court. We're going to make this a permanent court. Does it make sense to have an open play system that would stretch the parking over there? And perhaps we kind of undo our previous direction, which is to have some open play and see how it goes. And if it gets too rough over there, and there's just people are parking on the grass or don't have otherwise access to the park, we dial it back and keep it right sized for that park. It's not a great pickleball park, I guess. Pickleball park is what I'm trying to say. But we're doing with it what we can, and we don't want people over there permanently on multi-strike courts with temporary fraying nets. That doesn't help anybody. So, all that said, I think we could tonight say yes or no on approving the pickleball course, and then discuss the policy item, whether we think if we're kind of reversing the earlier direction that we gave to Mark and to Jay.
I just want to be fair, because I've heard from people on both sides of this, on the pros and cons of reservation systems and open play. I do think there is a uniqueness, and I've played a little bit of pickleball, but I'm not a pickleball person or whatever the term would be. But I do think there's something to be said for the social aspect of it. And so whether or not we want to try to keep, what the Parks Department decides is that open play is sort of a key part of the game in and of itself, that we're okay preserving that, then I think that's something. But again, I also don't want to push this in some ways, John, to the Parks Department, because if people want to disagree, I'd rather them disagree with us and have a policy directive towards us than to put our staff in the line on this. So I think that I don't want to leave this to say, hey, we're gonna let Parks decide on this, because I don't want to put them in a position where if they change their mind, then it's on them. So I think we should hold the decision if that's not to put them in a position where they have to say no to somebody. But I also think that it's not fair to Lori, if you were, if this is a fundamental piece of saying, hey, we would consider open play, then maybe the impact of this park is too detrimental that we don't want to support it. But I understand too, John, your point, which is to say, hey, if we left, I'm not saying this is a solution, but if you say we're going to do it, we're going to keep it as is, or we're going to reduce it to 2 courts of open play, or we're going to do something different, and then evaluate it over the next 6 months, I think that is a valid perspective on this, is however we do this, whether it was to do no open play and all reservation play, to revisit it in 6 months, or if we decided to keep it as is and then revisit it in 6 months. I do think there is valid.
I mean, no matter what, I understand there's no one can ever guarantee any of us, if you vote amiss tonight, that we will never make it free in perpetuity or whatever. I just was trying to gauge from up here if, like I said, open play being a programming thing, and I get it, because I agree with Mike in terms of the amount of time and energy that our Parks and Rec has recently spent on accepting complaints and opinions on this issue. I do agree that I'm fine with if that's ultimately something you need to do. I certainly don't feel like I can make that decision tonight in terms of the policy issue, because I would have a lot of other follow-up questions about that. But in terms of, from what I'm hearing on the payment piece, I do feel like I could vote on the item that's on the agenda tonight.
And just so I'm clear, the open play is free, right?
Currently.
Yes, okay. And reservations are $5 an hour.
Or if you're a member, which is, different price for residents and non-residents, then you get, I won't say unlimited reservation, but I was told today 2 hours reservation every day would be included in your membership. But yes, if you were a non-member, it'd be $5. And like I said, I think there's other ways that could be done in terms of, registering, like they have pickleball lessons or any of those things could be on a registration basis or whatever. And even if it was, one night of free somehow registration organized versus 3, I mean, those things are all making a big difference in my mind. So, but one of the things I would want to know is, I did a little research on my own, and I don't think it is the case at all that we're the only city that charges, because I found multiple that do. But I found multiple that do. But I do think that I would be curious to find out more about logistics of how that works other places, not because, just to see what the possibilities are, because if we're going to put ourselves in position, I guess, to be directors of Park and Rec, which I understand why, but, so anyways, I could vote on this.
Okay, so we could vote on just whether or not just budget, and then discuss whether or not we want to do the policy question then?
I come back to my main concern, which all of you know, is that I live directly adjacent to the park. And so I'm aware of the other uses of that park that are very popular for residents. And that park on the weekends is chock-a-block full of kids and families and birthday parties. And my concern is that if the park is as popular as it is now for open play on the select evenings when it's available, and that is with extra stripes on the courts that make it unattractive, are we creating an even more attractive nuisance to the area where, when we improve it to the point where it's now something that everybody wants to use, we are effectively ruining all other opportunities for residents to participate in any other activities in that park? How are you going to manage Saturday mornings with folks who are showing up to have open play pickleball while you also have a family of 15 people who had a birthday party reserved in the pavilion and now show up and there is no parking for them and they've paid and reserved the space to be there? I see this actively playing out when I walk through that park on the weekends, almost every weekend. So if that's the current situation and we have a less than adequate pickleball court and people are still willing to show up, we all know that when we make improvements in this city, our residents benefit, but so do non-residents, right? That was why we metered the parking over at Fort Maitland. because we wanted to prioritize our residents' access to the amenity that we spend an awful lot of our park trust fund money improving. And we did make really, really nice improvements to that park, but we carved it out in a responsible way so that our residents would be having first priority and first access. For the residents who walk over to Minnehaha because they live locally, fantastic. You're not taking up a parking spot. But for the people who are coming in, especially residents who are driving in from other neighborhoods, Lake Catherine, for example, is a walk. I mean, you could walk it, but it's 15, 20 minutes. You could drive just as easily. How do we measure that against the other activities that are currently in that park? And again, we have 2, 3 pavilions in there that are available for rent. And on a Saturday or a Sunday, all of them are full with families, with birthday parties and other events. And where are those people going to go? Because this email we got this morning from one of our residents who was pointing out that with open play, it says Minnehaha is a lakefront park with a playground and trails and only 24 parking spaces. 4 courts without any wait time supports 16 players. A 15-minute wait suggests that there are 32 players participating. The math just does not math for us to do this unless we have some sort of really limited safeguards around the fact that we're not ruining the use of this park for all of the other people who live locally. That's their local park. And they can't use it for anything else because we've dedicated this space to a niche activity. So those are my concerns.
And I just wanted to echo that that's kind of why I felt like, because I've paid to have birthday parties there before and not been able to park, and my guests not be able to park before pickleball existed, so it's already an issue. I think on a weekend, and we don't currently have the open play on the weekends, I do think that that's why a cautious approach and just a measured approach is ideal. It doesn't, and that's what I've communicated to anyone who's tried to communicate with me about my position, is that I'm not saying I never will be okay with anything. I think I'm an open-minded person. I just don't know right now. So that's why I err on the side of caution. And I believe what we had previously talked about allows us to be in that cautious place, to have those restraints around it. And then as we see through various methods how things are going, then we can kind of adjust and ease the reins, which may or may not be possible. But that's kind of exactly what I thought.
Yeah, Lindsay brought up, I mean, a good point. I didn't even think about that, is that she associated the parking situation kind of with Fort Maitland. And remember that nightmare? It was always boaters parking everywhere and anywhere, and people, I'd get phone calls saying we need to make the park just a parking lot. And so people can get their boats on there, but it is for multiple uses. And so, yeah, I see that now. Good point.
Okay, so let's do this, because again, I don't think everybody's going to leave here happy tonight, but as I said, the item was on the agenda advertised as whether or not we're going to fund the construction of the pickleball courts. And what I've heard tonight from a couple of my fellow council members is that the unadvertised part of this, which is what you all are here for, is to make a decision versus open play versus a reservation system, and to a lesser extent perhaps charging. But so perhaps what we do tonight is to vote on the item that was supposed to be voted on, and unless I hear 3 of us up here want to talk about open play versus reservation system tonight, we'll let that one sit, because nothing's going to change on it right now. In any case, open play is not going to change at all until we get a pickleball court constructed. It's not a today issue, but it's a looming issue. It's not a today issue. So, Mike, I think your point is well taken, that you don't want to disappoint people who are here tonight and talk about this. You don't want to have them make them give up another night to come out and talk about it if you want to do it in the future night. But at the same time, it's not on the agenda. When you be comfortable, talking about it some other time, or you feel like we should address it.
Well, my issue is we already talked about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the only problem I see with, and I get your point, but the way we kind of set this up, that's what I was trying to ask, but we already, with the public period, we kind of let it out.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But that what became really, so we're going to vote on an issue that really nobody had a comment on, which is sort of, everyone's sort of okay with the funding of the pickleball courts, but we just spent, I don't know however long, talking about open play versus not, and we're not going to vote on it. That just seems...
Well, what we could do is have this vote, and then somebody can make a motion in a second, and if it gets a motion in a second, we
What's that?
can vote.
50 minutes? Yeah. That's why we have her, to keep all the, to keep out my inefficiency. Here's what I would say. I think that there is, I've heard, I think there's a lot of valid concerns on the parking issue, because I've driven by, the parking lot can be full. I also get some of the questions about the social part of the game and getting people out. I mean, Mark and I talked about it. Maybe there aren't people that have 4 people to play, and so they just want the ability to go down, meet people, and then actually play. So I think there's some aspect of this game that is different than others. Now, I don't know, I know on like Saturday mornings, and Jake can probably give, on Saturday mornings at the park where we do the basketball, people come and they don't have an organized team or anything like that, but they do pay. Is that a pay issue when they go in and play basketball at Community Park? Or is that just an open play on Saturday morning or something like that?
Yeah, they don't pay anymore. We quit staffing that a few years ago. We did have a pay system. We quit staffing that a few years ago.
Right.
So
But on tennis, we do nothing with tennis that is open play. We charge for all the tennis courts, right? So the point is that there's we do look at different sports differently, and we establish different fees and the practicality of all the different events. So I do think that there's looking at pickleball as its own unique sport. I don't know if worthy of applause or not, but I think everything is unique. So I don't, and it may be that the unique challenge of the pickleball that say, hey, it just causes too much parking, and you won't stop at this one, says you shouldn't have open play. Or maybe it says, hey, we appreciate that open play is an important part of pickleball. So I don't know, John, when we made the open play, non-open play decision, based on that, if we have the full set of facts or not. So I would go at this saying, and the other problem though is that, I talked to Mark about this, if you don't allow any open play, if we just go into this with the 4 new courts, and we are now allow no open play to begin with, you never know whether open play would or would not have been a problem. So you're preventing a problem that you don't know would have been any worse or better given the new design of the courts. So I don't know if there's having 2 courts, and I see your point that the math doesn't work if there's 15-minute times, if there just aren't enough parking spaces, assuming that people at the park want to use that park for something else other than pickleball. So is it something that we do that, open play can be continued however many nights a week on 2 courts, just to keep that ability to keep going, and having some open play that continues on, but recognizing that with potentially, to your point, enhanced courts, you're going to get enhanced play. But until we know, we're kind of stopping the problem before it even exists, which maybe is not a bad, obviously if we can prevent problems, that's a good thing, but,
I will just say the one thing that I think I'm struggling with is the whiplash that we sat up here a few weeks ago and had to pick streets that weren't going to be part of our sidewalk project because we know that we're in a financially difficult position right now. And realizing and recognizing that our park trust fund money comes from a different source, but it is a limited resource that we have available to us. And we know that that money, because of the lack of new development coming in that will continue to replenish that fund, we know it is a scarce resource. And because it's a scarce resource, I also want to highlight and remind all of us that we do have a Parks Master Plan which sets out how we are going to fund those scarce resources to different projects around the city. And this project has leapfrogged other projects that have been on the books for multiple years with plans that were already set. And here we are willing to make that sacrifice and to hear the residents who are asking for us to do something extraordinary for them that is not currently in the plan and is not supported by the use study that we also paid for in order to figure out whether there was actually a base of purpose for this. So we're going against the data telling us that this is not something that is needed by the majority of the residents. We're going against the Parks Master Plan that sets out the schedule on which we are going to make the improvements to the parks that need the improvements on that schedule. And by the way, Minnehaha had other improvements that were scheduled that will not be done, which was fixing that atrocious playground. So that's also not getting done, but here we are willing to put money in front of that to fix a problem that has been identified. We're willing to make that change to this amenity, but now we're also facing what I feel like is, okay, but now we want more. And what my concern with that is that we know that we have a limited space there, and it's not the most appropriate space, and we've all talked about that Minnehaha is not the most appropriate space. So I don't want us putting and investing the money into updating and renovating those courts and making them compliant so that the people who want to play pickleball can come and play pickleball on those courts, but then to find out that we've gone to all that trouble and nobody's going to be happy with our solution because, well, now in order to maintain the park so that everyone else, the residents, can use it in the other ways that it's already being used for, we have to limit it to reservation. So then we're going to have people who are angry at us because, well, you've made all these beautiful improvements, but now you've made it so I can't use it because you're forcing me into a reservation system. Paying for it aside, pay to play aside, which I think is a natural policy because that's how we do it for a whole bunch of other things, the reservation versus the social aspect, and I hear you saying that this is a social sport that people just show up and pick up and play, that's great. Maybe this is just not an appropriate location for this social activity to conduct itself in the first place, in which case it really does go to the core of whether we should authorize that money tonight in order to pay to make those improvements. So.
Yeah, I know it's convincing me almost to not vote on this tonight, to be honest with you. As I said from the very first thing I said, part of why I was always okay with this, all the things you said about putting this ahead and all those things, was because my conversations personally behind the scenes with Jay were always related to the reservation system. And for it is, I don't want to say pay for itself as if it's a, an equal relationship, but essentially. So even though there are things like basketball or playgrounds that people don't pay admission to, that's part of why I would have felt differently about those things. So if it is, I guess the reason I'm considering now delaying my opinion on all of this is more so that maybe I need to do more research, or all of us need more input on whether or not the pickleball community would rather just keep it the way it is, all parts of the way it is, and not spend any of the money, and keep it the parts that they have that they like, but also the parts that they don't have I don't know at this point which is better, if that makes sense. Now I'm extra.
So I think we should move forward with the courts, but I also think that so I think though that we have, so the boat ramp thing you pointed out. So I think one of the main focus when I looked at that was having residents, not being exclusionary to outside residents, but giving residents, Maitland residents, some aspect of that they were going to get a chance to park there and use the boat ramp. And so I think, came up with, and that took, I don't know, Mark, a long time, years probably, to come up with, kicking that around and looking at, and then obviously implementing the actual park. And it took a couple of meetings that we had about the different variations. So I don't want to give up kind of hope that we could figure this out, and whether that's through, there's got to be ways to do this, whether it's open play is for people who are part of a reservation, that they're residents who have paid for whatever, but policing that and monitoring that is a whole different problem, which is the problem we kicked around with the boat ramp solution. So I mean, I think we had picked Lindsay, to your point, I think we had picked this project to kind of move ahead, which is that you were getting a pretty good benefit for the dollar spent. So for a relatively low amount of dollars, we were potentially satisfying the group.
But are we satisfying that?
Well, and I think that they all, not all, I think that a majority that I have talked to, well, I think actually everyone that I've talked to, would say that permanent nets is a good step forward for this, that they want to see permanent nets, that would be an improvement. Whether or not the open play is part of that, from, like, we're tying that. So I think from the pickleball community, and I don't know how to phrase that any better, but I think they didn't see the vote tied in the sense that open play meant, or 4 designated real courts meant no open play. I don't think they tied the two together, and whether we did or not is sort of a kind of a different issue of how it was perceived in the community. So I think that, from my standpoint on this, I think that we should move ahead with this part of the project, but I do think that there's, at this point, I mean, John, we've kind of opened it. I mean, in my opinion, we've already done it. So whether or not you want to do it tonight or move it to another meeting, we've already had the discussion. So I think I don't think it's reasonable for us to just say, hey, we're just not going to talk about this again, in my opinion. So if we were, we should have just said, hey, we're not talking about that. That's not what the agenda item is. We're going to move, so I think, and it's an open play, we're getting rid of open play, period, and here's what we're going to do, and then maybe put it on it. So I think either we move this forward and then stick with or do it tonight, or I don't care if we do it tonight or another meeting, but I don't think we should not revisit it at this point because we've talked about it too much.
But we never voted to eliminate open play. We never gave direction to eliminate open play. What we gave direction to do was do a reservation system only, which I understand effectively created that. But that is, again, back to my point, and I think what Lindsay's saying is that the reason those things were braced together is because one was paying for and justifying the other. And so to say we're going to potentially divorce those things, again, if it is an issue of how do we accomplish it, but it still stays reservation and it still stays controlled, and to address the parking and to address the fee, cool. I can live with moving that off to another thing, but I don't want to be pushed into a vote on this, not that I'm being put, and then 2 weeks later, oh, we're changing the policy in a way that effectively changes my opinion on this part of the decision.
Well, that's why I want to be fair, because I think we now owe it to have the discussion, to have the actual vote on it, because we made a vote on that potentially, and there's disagreement as to a little bit, not, maybe it's
I think effectively
the
what it was is that we could have easily procedurally kept it on consent, not discussed it, then had public comment when all the people would have said the things that they just said, and we may or may not have discussed those things. So, I don't know that it procedurally changes anything really, but if I don't feel comfortable personally, and I don't have a say if 2 people, I guess, have a motion in a second, but because it wasn't advertised for us as a decision item.
Right. And I guess any item is, can be brought by a council member if somebody wants to put something on the agenda, they can put it on the agenda. So, anybody who wants to talk about the policy of open play versus reservation can do it in 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever. And that's the same with any issue. In which case, I guess if your vote was to fund the pickleball courts, but only if they would forever be reservation, I mean, it's always going to be open to administrative change, I guess. So, and that means you could vote against it. Anybody could vote against it, I guess. I guess to me, moving ahead with pickleball is important because I think people enjoy pickleball. I think we can make this work somehow. And I think permanent courts are better than temporary courts. Whether everybody's going to get everything they want out of it, I don't know. Whether it could remain a reservation system, 100%, and we continue with this, and there will be people who will be very upset and they'll play pickleball somewhere else. Or we can try to accommodate them to some level without overusing the park. kind of killing the goose to lay the golden egg. So, in any case, I would be in favor of moving ahead this agenda item, which was whether or not we're going to pay for it. And then it would be my intention to bring back the question, because Lori, I don't want anybody, on the one hand, I don't want to force a vote that nobody had the opportunity to really do the research on. And if we want to do some more, we've heard a lot of people, we certainly understand this now, and if people will come back again, we can talk about it.
Yeah, I think my main concern really for everybody involved, including in the room, is I think that unintentionally kind of forcing, and I don't really mean you guys are forcing anything, but sort of the conversation being forced, in my opinion, prematurely, is potentially forcing me to the other side of the issue where I wasn't before, as many people in this room know that I was an advocate for what they wanted. And so by tying these things together and kind of forcing what I believe is premature, then that is changing my mind about how I want to vote. And I understand, as I said before, that this could happen at any point, but that's different than me knowing that it might be happening, that in the same vote or 2 weeks later. And so that's my concern, that it's really not in anybody's best interest.
So you would like to table this and then bring it back as a whole at a later date?
I'm just confused at this point, frankly, but because I genuinely want to be thoughtful and do what's best for everyone, and I genuinely do think that it is causing this sort of like unintentional result.
And I agree, and if I'm compelled to force to vote tonight, I don't think I can vote in favor of moving ahead with authorizing us to spend money on something that we're not entirely sure what the outcome of that is going to look like. I think all of us up here are fiscally conservative when it comes to spending our residents' money and being responsible about how we're spending the money. And I agree that we all walked into this with the tacit understanding that we were going to put the money towards this because we already had an idea of how it was going to look on the other side. But I think that idea has now changed based on resident comments this evening that we've received. And I think that puts what we had thought of doing in a different lens, and I think we need to rethink our approach. And if we come back to the same result after having done more review, then we can gladly vote on it again. But I think that it also, as much as any member of council can put something on the agenda, that agenda is still noticed and published with that item on it. At this point, the pay for play or the reservation system is not a noticed item, and I think that there is still that these two discussions are in my mind tied together, and I don't think that I can separate them in order to vote for one but not the other without understanding the full outcome.
Okay. And yeah, so, when we did vote in July on this, to move ahead, we asked Mark to go out and get quotes and put together a proposal, and we made that policy decision. I have to admit that I didn't have a full understanding of pickleball, and I've gotten an education now on what the open play versus reservation system is. To me, it was, I've played tennis for some time, and I understood that, and I guess I applied those principles to pickleball, which I guess they're inapplicable. So now I understand, since the July 1st second meeting, what I'm trying to say is more information has come to light on, how intense the use might be and how important it is to people. And so, it may be, Vance, as you say, perhaps the best idea is to revisit this again when we take it all up in one advertised.
I was just looking, we have the 11th of November, I think is the next meeting, correct?
Yeah. Well, all right. I think that either way, is it that, before we do that, is really the idea that you would, because I wanted to be full disclosure on it, that I would be open for looking at this topic again in whole, right? So I wanted, just so I didn't not have anybody be surprised, like to Laura's point, that hey, we were going to do this the same thing. So I would be open for rediscussing the issue. But is there really, if I lose on whatever position I take, if I get on the wrong side of it, I guess the question is, either way, are you saying that you wouldn't want to move forward with at least getting, because if if the answer to that is yes, because I would be saying, for me, on either way, if I got, and because I'm not sure how I would even, where that plays out, because we haven't heard the solution, so we don't even know what that looks like on the other side. No matter what, I would have confidence that we would be able to fix that problem, so I would be comfortable moving forward with at least getting the construction side of this done, because I know that everybody up here is reasonable and is going to find the solution, so I think we're going to find the answer to the other problem.
So we've talked about this, right? We talked about this with Mark. Mark has talked about it with us individually, and I know that there have been other ideas bounced around for other possible venues and solutions where pickleball would be an appropriate location. Public-private partnerships, I mean, things have been bounced around. There have been ideas that have been expressed that we on council are aware of that are merely whispers and hints, but they are still suggestions. I don't think that I want to commit us spending $16,000, even if that seems like a small amount of money. I think $16,000 could be very well spent putting in picnic tables and benches over at Hill Passive Park where they were supposed to be designated. Sibilia, right? We talked about putting in that bathroom. We've talked about all the things. We've all talked about the things that we didn't get to buy this year because we had a deficit of $1 million that hampered our budget. I would like to be responsible about this, and it may turn out that we spend more money on doing this properly. But I would like to have that opportunity to fully vet this idea, because if it comes back that we're going to spend the money and we're going to do this, and then the residents are not going to be happy with us because we haven't done it the way they want us to do it, then what did we spend that money for?
Because I've heard from a lot of people that think that there is a hybrid of this system that actually will work. And even if it's not a hybrid, even if it was, they make reservations and it kind of turns into open play. I think the issue is that no matter how you do it, 4 people could make reservations and invite the same amount of people, and conceivably you've got the same parking problem.
Right.
So you don't necessarily eliminate the problem by just saying we're going to take away, quote unquote, open play. You could get the same effect. You can just say 4 people could, you could get to your point, you could have more problems because 4 people could reserve 4 courts, invite the entire state of Florida to come play pickleball.
Right.
And you have a problem.
That's not under the current policies they could. So to answer your question, yes, it would affect potentially my vote on passing the money. I hear Lindsay saying it. So I would like to make a motion to table the vote that's noticed for tonight for the next scheduled meeting, and we can put all of these issues on there together.
I'll second that to table this till November 11th meeting.
Okay, any discussion on the motion there?
We should have done that at the beginning of the meeting, but okay.
Sometimes it takes a lot of talking to figure out how we feel.
No, yeah, and I wish Noah were still here to see if he could learn how the wheels of government run. He bailed out.
Rusty wheels.
Class in the morning.
You're probably at bedtime.
We honestly are trying to get to the best decision here for everybody, folks, and we'll start as, perhaps not the decision everyone wants to hear about. But I think these are all fair points, and so we have a motion in a second, and Laura, please call the roll.
Councilmember Wurzel. Aye. Councilmember Wells.
No. No, that's a nay.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall Harrison.
Aye.
Mayor Lowndes.
No. Nay. Okay, it's 3-2, yes.
So so just to set we tabled this with no actual return date.
11th.
The 11th.
We did.
My vote had the next scheduled meeting. I didn't
Okay,
say the
I'm
date,
sorry.
I didn't
So
know
next
what it was.
scheduled meeting, so we're gonna do this all again.
With
On
research,
November
y'all are
11th.
gonna research in 10 days.
All right.
What's going to be different?
Okay, I think
Honestly, what's
My outfit, possibly my hair.
the person sitting here?
all right. Reports. City manager, any reports?
I guess just to follow up on that, what can Jay and I do before the next meeting to help you with your decision-making process?
I will call you tomorrow morning and we can talk about it.
Yeah, I can talk to you individually.
Yeah.
I can put something together.
I think that's good for us to sleep on and get some thoughts.
Because I think that it'll also be part of how it's framed in the vote. I think that the decision item needs to be framed differently based on what I'm hearing now. So I'm going to look more if it's tied to stuff.
I would like clarification. Is consensus to bring this back as 2 items or 1 item?
That's what I was trying to
I mean, just, can we,
That's what that's basically why I think we've tabled it, those of us who voted to do so.
I would say,
We don't know.
one item, because I think, back to it, I think what we do kind of has cause and effects, and I think we need to do it the right way. And back to Lindsay's point, it's not the 16,000, I just want to do it the right way. So I don't want to make something and then everybody be like, oh, this was terrible what y'all did. I want it to come back and be a good product. So let's see what we got.
I don't know how you do this as an administrator. It's 2 different votes. You can, I mean, we can do it in one, but it's 2 different, in my opinion, it's 2
because
different
it's a
issues.
policy and then there's expending funds.
Well, then for me, maybe the policy decision needs to precede the cost.
Right, I mean, I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we could then, a month later, bring back the policy decision again.
I think you might.
Yeah, I know. It's just, well, you know, in 2 years, everything can change too, because 3 of us are going to be gone.
Right.
Yeah.
In less than 2 years, so.
Yeah, as long as it's understood that when I talk to the 5 of you, my staff report might reflect 5 different ideas of what the best approach forward is.
Anybody can make whatever motion based on those agendas.
As long as you can provide that grace to me, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Is that your report?
No, actually, I had some other stuff. This Friday, November 1st, we have our next Get Down Downtown with the Beatles Liverpool Live tribute band, 6 to 9 p.m. Our movie in the park on November 16th is going to be Despicable Me 4, starting at Saturday, starting at 6 p.m. Don't forget about Rotary Art Festival right around the corner, November 8th to 10th. Our December Get Down Downtown, December 6th, is going to be basically a Christmas concert. Maitland is going to be here doing his Christmas show for us, so it's kind of a big deal, sort of a special concert we're bringing in for that Get Down Downtown. And Season of Light, 5 to 8:30, December 7th. So get your plunge arms ready, John.
Plunges?
Plunges are like fun.
I know what the kids do.
That's true.
I can choose the most of them.
Non-P6.
All right. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, a lot going on
This
this
city of
time.
Maitland. City attorney, you have any losses?
No, Mayor.
One Maitland?
There will be someone else in the seat to enjoy the pickleball discussion next time. It'll be Drew, but I will brief you.
Break time, bring his guitar.
I will tell him. I will not take a lot of encouragement from you.
Council reports, anybody?
I'm happy to say that I am a judge, along with Cammie from the library and somebody else that we don't know, tomorrow at Lake Sebelius, their book fair weekend, and they do their whole, I guess they don't call it a costume contest, but it's a whatever character out of the book you want to be, and then we have a costume contest, and we judge those characters from the books. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm bringing alumni, I'm bringing my wife, and one of my neighbors, and her daughter that used to do it when she was a kid, at Lake Sebelius. So it's going to be a fun time tomorrow.
Awesome. All right, anybody else?
I'd like to say thank you to Jay. Thank you to Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
I was out netting the morning after the storm and Milton, and walked up to Maitland Community Park, and there's Jay supervising a whole group of people who were trying to reopen Mayo so that the residents of the Oaks could get out, because we had a tree crew there first thing in the morning, and they were doing their hardest to try and get us back up and running. And I want to express my thank you to all of our public works people, to Mark, to everybody in our city staff who have handled the last few weeks with real grace. And to echo our resident, thank you for coming and saying nice things to us. We really appreciate compliments. We don't get them very often. But it truly has been a very difficult last few weeks, and I know that you have all worked extremely hard to do the best you can for our city, and those of us who see the work you're doing truly do appreciate it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for keeping our city running. You do an amazing amount. And then Jay putting on Halloween on top of everything else, that was a huge success the other night. It was a massive party. There were so many people here, and you know, congratulations and thank you again for the hard work and the dedication to our city.
You know, I'm going to kudos that because I had a text, somebody asking me if the park at Lake Lily the Saturday after the storm was going to be open because somebody they knew was having a birthday party there. And y'all had it open that morning, I think, and ready to go. And the crew here in Maitland, I mean, really phenomenal how we've done cleanup. I went the back way through to the Altamont Mall yesterday, and everything's still a wreck there. Seminole County and Altamont haven't really been on top of it like we have, and so good job to all you guys back there, and thanks, I mean, police, fire, public works, parks, everybody, thank you very much.
You're here.
I agree with that.
Yes.
Also, it was fun, just real quick, being in that park on Saturday with that fall Halloween. It's just a reminder to me of just what the things that have been created in Maitland and the excitement and energy that's in downtown Maitland now, that if we rewind however many years ago, and that was, we were standing, a lot of us, on the old City Hall building, and so it's been I think a great transformation and fun to see what a community can bring out with those types of spaces. So.
Bingo, didn't make it a meat market and a doctor's office.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, good. We are adjourned.
I tell you what, I've been around this too long. I mean, that was 12 years ago or something.